and you can see the brilliance of his writing. Of course, some of the things he says here, he just blows me away. When I'm looking through his works, which I do quite a bit in curating this collection, I say just about every day at some point, I say, who writes like this? Because he was brilliant. He was brilliant the way he put words together. Hi, welcome to Brewster Weekly, the official podcast of the Brewster Fine Arts Foundation, whose mission is to preserve and promote the legacy of Dr. William Herbert Brewster Sr. My name is Cliff Massey Jr., and I'm the Executive Director of the Brewster Fine Arts Foundation. Today's episode is our very first episode, and I'm very excited to share it with you. I have something very special that I want to share. It's very humbling for me. And to be honest, I think this episode might be one of the best ones I do because of this. Looking through some of the Brewster archives that I have been privileged enough to have access to, I found a notebook with an unpublished poem of Dr. Brewster's, and I want to share it with you today. So again, I was looking through the Brewster archives, which is basically boxes and boxes and boxes of Dr. Brewster's works, his poems, his sermons, speeches, old bulletins from church. The Brewster Fine Arts Foundation is in the process of collecting these items and curating them and digitizing them and preserving them for what we hope will be a future museum, but we want to make sure that they stay preserved for future generations. Anyway, I was going through one of the boxes and I found this notebook, and it's not an uncommon thing for me to find notebooks of old writings of Dr. Brewster's. And his notebooks are, when you read through them, it's funny because they tend to be random. He didn't just fill up notebooks. So I'm going to walk you through this one a little bit. So if you look, it's just, the pages are, like he wrote there at the beginning, the watchman word of the night up top, and then there's nothing, random things, and you'll see just all the way through it's just random. It's just really random nothingness. And you won't really find a whole lot. You'll find little bits, little notes he took. This is his handwriting for the most part, if not all, but almost all of it is his handwriting. And I was just flipping through this notebook like I do a lot of his notebooks. And then I came across a page, let me find it right quick, this one. And I was like, oh wow, that is more than just a scribble. And I looked at it, and it's a full-on poem. And you can see, when you look at this poem, you can see that he wrote it out, then you can see his notes. You can see where he squeezed in words. You can see where he corrected himself. And you can see the brilliance of his writing. Of course, some of the things he says here, he just blows me away. I talk to Gigi all the time, his great-granddaughter, Kentasha Brewster Evans, who works very closely with me with the foundation. And I told her, when I'm looking through his works, which I do quite a bit in curating this collection, I say just about every day at some point, I say, who writes like this? Because he was brilliant. He was brilliant the way he put words together. Something else that I took note of when I was looking at this particular poem is that the letters are shaky. You can tell he was shaky when he was writing it. So it had to be later on in life, which we assumed anyway, because most of this collection, he started preaching in the 1920s, and most of the collections after 1960. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of his earlier works. But this was probably within 5 years of him passing, which was in 1987. The other thing is, this poem in particular isn't like a lot of his poems where it tells a message. This poem is describing eternity. So it makes me wonder, a man who was approaching his 90s, where his mind was. And this is just my speculation. But if you think about the fact that he was approaching 90 years old. He died when he was 90. He turned 90 July 2nd, 1987. He passed October 14th, 1987. So he did make it to his ninth decade. But it just makes you wonder where his mind was in particular when he was writing this. Hey, if you're a fan of Zumba, or if you've ever wanted to try Zumba, you have a wonderful opportunity to experience it while supporting a great cause. The Brewster Fine Arts Foundation will be hosting its first ever Zumbathon fundraiser August 26th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at The Dominion Church on 794 East Range Road. All you need to bring is your $10 donation, some comfortable clothes, and your gym shoes. So do me a favor and share this message, tell all your friends, and come out and support the Brewster Fine Arts Foundation in our mission to preserve and promote the legacy of Dr. William Herbert Brewster Sr. Also coming soon, the first publicly available published writings of Dr. William Herbert Brewster Sr. since 1982. The Brewster Fine Arts Foundation will be releasing a 30-day devotional compiled from several of Dr. Brewster's sermons. You won't want to pass up the opportunity to spend 30 days starting your morning with the words and wisdom of this great man of faith. More details about this release will be coming in the near future. I am going to read this, and I'll tell you now. I'll thank you for watching this episode now, because I'm going to end this on his words. I don't feel like, once I read this, I don't feel like I should follow it. I don't think there's anything I have to say. I think this is the way the podcast's first episode should end, with the words of Dr. William Herbert Brewster Sr. And I'll remind you, this poem is unpublished. And it may not have even been, I don't think this poem has been seen in almost 40 years, if not 40 years. Again, he passed in 1987. That was roughly 36 years ago. And this has just been in a box, stored away. So for all of his 200 plus songs that he's published, for his many, many poems, from I'm Determined to Be Somebody Someday, to My Best, to Mule Sense, to all the other poems. We published a book in 1982. We call it the Blue Book. We published a book in 1982 to coincide with his the symposium they did of his work in the Smithsonian Institute. There are quite a few of his poems in there, along with his songs. But from all of these things, this poem in particular has never been seen. I think he may have been the only person to ever see this poem. He sketched it out, and it's nowhere else. It doesn't have a name. He didn't name it anyway. I've put a title to it. Humbly, again, I don't feel like I have the cachet to name a poem of Dr. Brewster's, but I'm calling this poem In a Land of Dreams, just so I don't have to call it unpublished poem, because I have to assume there are others out there, and hopefully we'll get to share those with you. One of the foundation's main goals is to share the works and words of Dr. Brewster's with the world, and in this first podcast episode, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So thanks again for watching this first episode. Many more to come, much more of Dr. Brewster's work to come. And now I'm going to debut this poem of Dr. Brewster's that we're going to call, for the time being, In a Land of Dreams. Beyond those solemn hills of time looms one long vast eternity, where seraphic choirs ring in joy sublime, in soft but celestial unmeasured quantity. All around the Creator's throne, smiles and delights to behold his own. There, lilting notes drip from the scroll upon the blooming roses of paradise, and echoing songs of praises roll through resonant halls beyond the skies. when morning stars songs of praise employ, and the sons of God all shout for joy. Far beyond these mundane shimmering shores, the golden portals of mansions gleam. No storm clouds rise, no cold wind blows. In that land of beauty that excels all dreams, where saints immortal and angels range, in a land of dreams.